Donald Trump denounces journalists as corrupt, phony, and lowlifes, but some of his supporters have taken it much, much further. My next guest, unfortunately, knows that all too well. He is David French, a senior fellow at the National Review Institute. Mr. French, thank you for coming on. You doing okay?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You have been Never Trump from the very beginning. Your name has floated as a possible conservative third-party alternative to Donald Trump, which brought you a lot of attention, much of it, unfortunately, unwelcome. So explain the price that you and your family have paid for opposing Donald Trump.
Well, you know, this goes all the way back to September of 2015, before I'd even given a glimmer of thought to challenging Donald Trump. I had come out publicly against some of the statements that Ann Coulter was making, one of Donald Trump's chief media allies, that I thought were not even really coded dog whistles to what's called the alt-right, a group of white nationalists and other forms of extremists who've allied themselves with Trump. And what happened next was pretty unbelievable. My Twitter feed was bombarded with pictures of my youngest daughter, who's African-American. We adopted her from Ethiopia, with her face in a gas chamber, with Donald Trump in a Nazi uniform about to press the button to kill her. Her face photoshopped as a slave. Then the next day, it got even more disturbing as people found my wife's blog and filled it with images, the comment section with images of black people being killed in gruesome ways. It was terrible, and it didn't end then. It didn't end when we blocked all those people and reported them on Twitter. Things just kept going, and they escalated when my name was floated for the presidency into outright threats and breaking into a phone call at one point with my wife and her father. It's really hard to believe when you take it all together, but the sad thing is I'm not the only one who's experienced this.
You said breaking into a phone call with your wife and his father? What do you mean? How did that happen?
It's the strangest thing. Even the law enforcement is stumped. My wife was talking to her father. A person broke into the call. A voice broke into the call. This just happened a couple of weeks ago, talking about Donald Trump, yelling profanities at my wife, yelling profanities at my father-in-law. And it was deeply disturbing.
So the phone call was hacked?
The phone call was hacked somehow, and it led to an immediate search in my father-in-law's house. Was there anyone in there who had picked up the phone? My wife was on an iPhone. We called the law enforcement immediately. They're stumped by it. So it's not just Twitter hate. It's not just people saying mean things on the internet. There are people actually going out and trying to intimidate us, trying to put our family in fear because we oppose Donald Trump and because our family is multiracial, which is an anathema to this alt-right that's wormed its way into the Trump movement.
I imagine you've had to take some precautions now to keep your family safe, correct?
Oh, absolutely. My wife carries a handgun at all times. But, you know, again, we're not the only ones. I mean, there are multiple journalists, Eric Erickson, who founded Red State, Bethany Mandel, multiple journalists for mainstream media outlets, some of whom have had to install security in their homes. They've had to start carrying a weapon for the first time in their lives. I wrote about this because I didn't just want people to know my experience or my family's experience. I wanted them to know that this is something that is happening in our political culture right now to those people who defy Donald Trump, particularly those people who maybe have multiracial families or they're Jewish. An enormous amount of anti-Semitic hate is out there. My friend Ben Shapiro has received an enormous amount of anti-Semitic hate. And so it's an epidemic, and it's deeply corrosive to our political culture.
David, do you think the Trump campaign and Trump supporters, have they done enough, in your opinion, to encourage a more civil dialogue?
Oh, of course not. I mean, look, you know, Steve Bannon, who was the head of Breitbart, is running the Trump campaign now, or is CEO in the Trump campaign. And Breitbart didn't just enable the alt-right, it has empowered the alt-right. It has published extended pieces rationalizing the alt-right. Some of its writers have been some of the leaders in leading some of these online mobs into attacking and harassing people. And that guy's right in the middle of the Trump campaign. Ann Coulter has consistently stoked the alt-right, and she's one of his chief advisors and chief media cheerleaders. So have they done? They haven't done anything. In fact, the opposite. Even Donald Trump himself has retweeted some of these alt-right accounts, which is unconscionable. So I don't say that Donald Trump is orchestrating any of this. I don't have any evidence of that. But I know his campaign is doing nothing to stand in its way, and some top people in his campaign have helped empower the alt-right itself.
Yeah. David, so many reporters and commentators have received abuse on social media and at political rallies. Yours, of course, yours has been more personal than that. I'm sure that, well, we all worry because we all get, sort of hateful responses from some of these people. Here, take a look at this. This is what CNN cameras caught recently at a Trump rally. Well, that one was a light one, because there's another one that I saw that was much more hateful than that, where the police had to step in, security guards. So, he tells crowds almost daily that the media is crooked and dishonest. Do you hold him responsible in any way?
Well, obviously, there's been a lot of evidence during the course of this campaign that there are instances where he has incited violence. There's instances where he has encouraged violence, and he's certainly stoking rage and fury. I mean, there's no question about that. Look, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe people have a right to say even dreadful things so long as they're not direct threats and pure threats. But what Donald Trump has done, I think, is deeply irresponsible. He is an agent of division. And I don't say that as an apologist for Hillary Clinton. I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I would never vote for Hillary Clinton. And I do think there have been unconscionable acts of left-wing violence in this election season. What we are facing right now is an election season that I think is the worst since 1968. It's not as bad as 1968, thankfully, but it's the worst since 1968. And unless our political parties begin to get a handle on this and show real moral leadership, it could get even worse the next time around.
Oh, goodness. Let's hope not. David French, stay safe, you and your family. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. We come right back to the behavior of some Trump supporters clearly crossing a line, but will it end after Election Day?